Welcome to the Doggy Dojo. I'm your host, Susan Light, a Los Angeles based dog trainer and behavior consultant on a quest to become worthy of the title Sensei of the Doggy Dojo. Today, we're covering something I get so many questions about: crate training. How do you use a crate? How do you introduce it? Do dogs like crates? Should we even be using them? This is a little bit of a hot topic in training today, as some think it's cruel to confine our dogs to crates. So I want to do an episode to show the kind and gentle way that you can use crates with your dogs. I generally suggest crate training all dogs so they can have the skill when they need it. The more flexible your dog is, the better. Even if you don't intend your dog to spend a lot of time in the crate on their daily life. My dogs, for instance, they ride in crash tested carriers in the car. Listen to last week's episode on vehicle safety, and they're both crate trained. Scarlett, my littlest one, when she came to us, she was very upset. She panicked the first time that we tried to put her in a crate. So I didn't force it. I didn't make her stay in there. And I actually waited until she'd had a chance to really settle in with us and get more comfortable before I reintroduced the crate. And it only took about a week at that point. And now she's comfortable in the crate. And so I'm very thankful for that, because this month she injured her back and she's been ordered to be confined by the vet. So we've had to restrict her movement so her back can heal. And I am so thankful that she was already comfortable in her crate and her pen, because that is where she is spending all of her time now for a couple of weeks. So truly, I think it's a great skill for any pet. And I just want to be clear that I'm not here advocating for the crate as punishment or its overuse or abuse, which it certainly can be used for by some. So I think it's a little bit of an overcorrection to see those people and then say, well, we shouldn't be using crates at all. They can be used positively, and they can be a nice safe space for your pet when they need one, for whatever reason. I'm talking to someone today who is in total agreement with me on how crates should and should not be used. She's a certified professional dog trainer, the founder of Think Like a Dog University, and the co-owner of Hot Diggity Dog Resort in San Diego. She's a board advisory member for the San Diego School District's Regional Occupational Program, the ROP, the Veterinary Assistant Program, and she is a member of several dog training and animal behavior associations. She's authored several books on dog training, including The ABCs of Dog Training and Potty Perfection. Please welcome Penny DiLoreto. Welcome to the podcast, Penny.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to be here today.
I'm super excited to cover this topic because I get a lot of questions about it. A lot. Let's talk about it. Crate training. Do you recommend crate training for every dog?
And I do recommend crate training, but I do not recommend it for every dog. There are some dogs who, for whatever reason, maybe they weren't trained correctly as a puppy and now they're older and they're fearful of the crate, or they have, certain anxiety issues. Those types of dogs, I do not recommend crate training, but a young puppy just getting started out, I highly recommend that.
Absolutely. I was about to ask what the ideal age to start is. So
You know,
as young
you
as young as you can, or when you get them.
if you're getting your puppy from a breeder, or is gifted to you, or rescuing a puppy from a humane society, that's definitely the best time to get started. To introduce the crate slowly. It's not an overnight thing. You want to start out with lots of praise, lots of treats, leaving the door open, letting the puppy come and go. So they look at their crate not as a cage. They
Mm.
look at it more as a den or a safe place, an enjoyable place that I want to hang out in.
Ah, I love that you put it that way. Is it ever too late to start if your dog's a year old, 2 years old?
Never too late. If your dog doesn't have any anxieties against came with preconceived bad notions of a crate, you can train an older dog crate just as easily as you can a new puppy.
Awesome. And then how do you choose a crate?
It's basically on size and need. So if you're only going to use the crate for transporting your dog to the vet, or maybe you're going on a road trip, you want one that's going to fit comfortably in your vehicle. If you're using a crate in your home, you want to make sure that it fits it comfortably in your home. If you're in a very small apartment, you don't want to get a huge crate that takes up your whole living room. And the smaller, the better. I laugh and tell people, us humans, we love, 5 bedrooms, 3-car garage. The bigger, the better. In dog crate, the dog should be able to stand up, turn around, lay back down comfortably. That's all the space they need for the crate.
Absolutely. And something else that people don't realize is if you're buying this for your puppy who's going to grow, you don't have to buy a small one and keep sizing up, correct? They come with little divider walls so you could make it puppy sized, but buy it for the size that your dog will be when they're grown up.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And that would be one that you weren't using for, transferring maybe your dog to the vet, or going to taking it to a place to play or what have you, daycare boarding. Um, those are usually hard-sided, and they don't come with the dividers. But the wire crate that you would use in your home, absolutely. They're going to have that little added divider panel that as the puppy gets bigger, you can move it back a little further and then eventually take it out, giving the dog enough room as it grows.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about the different types. So, yes, I was talking about the wire crate with the divider. You're talking about the hard sided plastic ones that you would put your dog in if they were going on an airplane or,
Correct.
something
Correct.
like that. I know
Yes.
there are crash tested ones that are like very expensive molded plastic, like
Yes.
PVC. Are there other types that I missed? I think there are blow
Well,
up ones now.
I I haven't seen the blown up ones. That's pretty interesting. I'll have to check into that. But there are bags, soft-sided ones.
Oh,
And
yes. Yeah.
a lot of the designer dogs that you'll see people, carrying them in one of the softer sided bags. They even have ones now. I usually see them with more with cats. That's a backpack, and it's got a big plastic bubble that the cat can stick its head in and look out. It's pretty interesting, but fun.
I've seen those. Yeah. So walk us through step by steps. You've picked out your crate, you've got your puppy. How do we start?
The best way to start, like I said, find a place. The biggest mistake people make, or one of the mistakes that people make, is they put the crate in their bedroom. And
Mm,
the theory behind that sounds good. Well, if the puppy wakes up during the night and cries, got to go potty, I can get up and let it out. Well, a couple of things happens. If you get up to go potty, you're going to wake your puppy up, whether he or she has to go potty or not. And now it just wants to get out and play. Or if you roll over in bed and get a drink of water, make any kind of noise, in the bedroom, the puppy's gonna think, "Oh, goody, it's time to get up," and start whining. The other problem that a lot of people have is hearing their puppy whine. So a lot of times the puppy will start whining and they'll jump right up. Well, that teaches the puppy that, well, if I whine, here comes mommy or daddy or whoever, to let me out. So I suggest not putting the crate in the bedroom.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, so if you feel like you need to get up during the night to let your puppy out to go potty, and it's more frequently, the younger they are. As they get older, you have more time. Um, set a little alarm on your phone, and every couple of hours get up, or 3 hours get up and take your puppy out. Because the one thing you don't want to do is wait for it to be whining, or we don't want to teach the puppy to whine and get out of the crate.
Yeah.
So you could put the crate in another room. I say an empty guest bedroom, if you have one's a great place. I like to put some nice dog music. You can tell Alexa, play dog music, and I hope I didn't set my Alexa off.
Set everybody's Alexa up.
Right.
It's listening.
But it'll give you a lot of selections, and you can play that softly. They have puppies, stuffed puppies now with heartbeats sounds in them that
Yes.
you
I
can
think they're
get.
called snuggle puppies.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
And and so you can get that and have that in there, but leaving the door open when you are first training is the best thing to do. And then just throw some little puppy treats in and let the dog run in, grab a treat, and run back immediately, run back out if he or she wants to. And just make it a fun game. And then after the dog feels comfortable enough of going inside, then you can close the door, count to three, let him back out, eventually counting a little bit longer and longer, and then leave the room for a few moments, come back in and reward the dog, let him out. Like I said, it's not an overnight. This is something that you're going to want to work on, but I tell you, it is absolutely worth the work.
Absolutely. And when you say like you want to go little by little because we don't want the puppy to be crying and then learn, that we open the door. What if we made a mistake? We tried to step out of the room and the puppy's whining now. Do we come in and let the puppy out? Do we have to wait them out?
The best thing to do, yeah, you left the room, maybe something happened and you stayed gone a little too long or what have you. And now the puppy's whining. What do I do?
Hmm.
You can come back in, but you don't necessarily have to let the puppy out. Toss, especially if you've got the wire type of crate, just toss some treats in, speak to the dog calmly and lovingly, and let him calm down. They will, you may think, oh gosh, this is going to take forever. No, they will calm down, and then you can let them out.
Yeah, I've had parent. I am not a parent, full disclosure, but I've had clients that as I'm teaching them to do this, they're like, "Oh my God, it's just like sleep training a baby."
Yeah,
And
it
it's like
is.
if the baby cries, you can go, and I don't know because I've never sleep trained a baby human, but if they're like, you go in and you say, "You're okay. I'm not picking you up, but you're fine. I'm here. Everything's okay." So I think, people think sometimes people really equate crates with like being really cruel and just being like, "I'm putting you in this little cage and I don't care about you." It's absolutely not true,
Oh, it's
right?
not. And I'll tell you, more and more people today understand that. The older generation. I know my mom would come over and she would see the dog in the crate and she would say, "Okay, what did you do? How come you're in jail?" And it took a while to convince her that it wasn't jail. And matter of fact, all of my dogs over the years, I leave the crate door open during the day, and all of a sudden I'll say, "Hey, where's Fluffy?" And I'll look, and Fluffy's in the crate. She put herself in there.
I know. I have 2 dogs and one likes to sleep in bed with us and one likes to sleep in his crate.
Mhm.
And yeah, the door's wide open. He could sleep anywhere he wants and he picks the crate, most
Yes,
nights. Yeah.
yes.
So it is possible to have a really positive association with the crates, but it's still good to have. Why are some of the reasons it is good to crate train our dogs?
Well, it's a great tool for house training.
Yes.
A big mistake that people make with their young puppy when they call me and say, I can't house train this dog. It's impossible. Well, it is possible, but you're going about it wrong because they give the dog way too much freedom in the beginning.
Yes.
Y-
100%.
Yeah, and so the puppy learns, hey, if I go under the bed and potty, I get by with it.
Oh
Nobody,
no.
you know, or go behind the chair and do my business. Nobody yells at me or
Nobody can
grabs
see
me.
it. Yeah.
Right, right. So by limiting the dog's activity and access to the whole house, you're going to be more successful in your potty training. Um,
Absolutely.
the other thing is just it's a safe space. We're busy people. Everybody's way too busy these days, and we have things to do. And the last thing, if you're cooking, you don't want puppy under feet, in the kitchen, especially if you have a small kitchen. So it's a safe place for your puppy to hang out while you're busy doing other things. Young puppies, they're teething. They're going to chew on everything.
Mhm.
I have a brand new young puppy, all disclosure here, and I tell you, he's eaten my iPod, my earbuds. And it's my own fault. I don't
Sure.
blame anybody but myself. But so this is again, if you're busy and you can't be supervising your puppy, then it's a place to put them so he's not chewing or doing any destructive behavior.
Which
Eh,
keeps them safe as well, because it's one thing to
yes.
be like, "Oh, he ate my iPods," but what if he ate your iPod your
Yeah. Yeah.
AirPods? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just keeping your stuff safe, it's keeping the puppy safe.
Absolutely, or a dropped pill or, whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
boy, they are so fast.
Oh, yeah. Or
It's-
teenage dogs when you
yeah.
start leaving them alone, right? Not
Oh,
every dog should
yes,
have access to your whole home. Again,
absolutely.
don't want it your stuff, but it's also not maybe safe. They could get into something dangerous while you're not home. If you're in San Diego, you can check out the Hot Diggity Dog Resort if you'd like to access some of the many resources Penny has available, including a web based course that will walk you through crate training step by step. Head to Think Like a Dog University. It's TLADU.com, or you can find some wonderful and very affordable books written by Penny, including the ABCs of Dog Training and Potty Perfection. I will put all those links for you in the show notes. We'll be right back.
And then, as we talked about earlier, just the transporting your dog, whether you're taking your dog to the vet or to a friend's house or to a daycare boarding facility, wherever. The one thing that when I see it, I just cringe is when you see a dog that's jumping around in the car when
Mm.
the driver is driving. It looks fun. It absolutely looks so fun, and I even laugh when I see a dog sticking its head out the window, and it's you try to groom a dog and put a dryer on it, and it goes crazy, but it'll stick its head out the window and let the wind blow. You know, but it really needs to be in a safe, secure place when you're traveling for your protection as well as the dogs.
So, anybody who's listened to the podcast, last week's episode, we talked about vehicle safety. So, I
Okay.
talked to the founder of the Center for Pet Safety, and she talked about how absolutely the safest place for your pet is contained in a crash tested carrier or crate,
Right.
regardless of their size. So,
Mhm.
and she said if you can't get a crash tested one, still contained is in a non crash tested is safer than loose. So,
Yes, I
100%.
Yes, 100% agree. And then just, in a multiple pet home, talking about safety, we have a rescue dog and then we have the new puppy. Well, the rescue dog has a little bit of food aggression issues, resource guarding. And so when he's eating, we put the new puppy in the crate. This way well, I don't know what would happen, but I do not want to take a chance. Just one incident is enough.
Absolutely. It's so helpful in multi dog households, which is why when you mentioned taking a dog to boarding, they're very likely sleeping in a crate at a boarding facility for safety. With that
Yes.
many dogs in a facility, they should, they can't just be all sleeping in a big pile.
Right. Well, some places do. I don't agree with it, but some places do have it.
Oh man. And then I will add one more caveat. I don't know where you're located, but I'm in LA and we just had all those wildfires
Yeah.
in January. And guess what? I mean, in an emergency situation or in an evacuation center, or just you have to travel and you don't have a place to go, guess what? Your dog's probably going to be in a crate. And it's much better if in that stressful situation, they're like, oh, good, I feel safe in this, my little spot, as opposed to like, what's happening? And I'm in this thing I'm not used to, you know?
Right, right. No, that just causes a lot of anxiety that, dogs don't need, especially during a time of crisis, because they're already, not understanding what's going on. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So you mentioned you can start young, older, as long as they don't have anxiety around the crate. So, is it possible if you have a dog that panicked when you tried to put him in the crate, to make the crate a positive thing, or is it kind of like let's just not do it?
Look, definitely always want to try. And like I said, leaving the door open, making going in the crate a fun game, a pleasant experience. But if you see that is just not going to work with this particular dog, then don't go for it. You can do other things. Tethering the dog is always an option if you can't let it be running free in the house. Then you can tether it. I've tethered him to me. I've tethered
Yeah.
my dog to me many
Yeah.
times. So,
Yep, that works for
so
a puppy. That's a step
right,
we do while
right.
you're getting house manners, yeah. But
Hmm.
not while they're alone. You're just
No,
talking about, like, while they're
no.
being supervised. Yeah.
Right, while they're
Yep.
being super, yeah, you don't wanna
Yeah.
tether them while they're alone. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. And then what are the biggest mistakes you see well-meaning pet parents make when it comes to crates?
Yeah, and that's a great I'm so glad you asked that question because we all make mistakes, and, that's why we make these podcasts so we can help each other. Not doing it slowly, getting the puppy or bringing a dog home from a shelter that you've rescued, and then, oh, here's a crate, get in, push the dog in, close the door, and this causes anxiety, and then now the dog's going to look at the crate as punishment.
Mhm.
You can use crates, and I train this a lot as for a short 1.5 to 2 minute maximum time out. Let's say that the dog is got the zoomies and just going crazy, and if the dog knows the crate well enough to get in, you can, okay, for 2 minutes get yourself to calm down and come back out. um, but a lot of people will put the dog in the crate when they're unhappy with the dog and leave them in there too long.
Mhm.
The dogs are very in tune to our body language and our tone of voice. And when we are that upset, they're going to equate dogs never think that we're upset with them. I'm mad about some mom came home in a bad mood, they think. And so they will also imprint that with their crate. So we don't want to use the crate as a punishment ever. A short 2 minute timeout is absolutely fine, 2 minute or less. But if you're going to punish your dog, which I hate to even use that word,
Right.
we certainly wouldn't think that a crate is a tool for that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because whenever I recommend to people, I have a rule with puppies, 3 strikes and you're out, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
if they bit my finger and I'm redirecting, give them a little bully stick to chew instead. If they spit out the bully stick and they're chewing on my hand again, again, I'm going to try. But that third time, it's like, okay, this clearly isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to just change the environment. So it's not a punishment, it's a change of the environment. What's happening right now, me holding you in my lap, isn't working. You're too excited and you need to chew on something. So then I will say, if maybe it's nap time, pop them, in their crate for a nap. Maybe it's pop them in the pen so they can chew on their thing without being distracted. But like you said, they're like, oh, it's not supposed to be a punishment. It's not a punishment. It's like, just like you said, we're just changing the environment so that we're not repeating ourselves over and over again. We're
Oh,
not
that
stuck in this loop, right?
yes, that is so smart, and that is so accurate. And I tell people all the time that environmental change, changing the environment is one of our biggest tools
Oh yeah,
when working with puppies and older dogs.
absolutely. Awesome. And crate training is a little controversial in today's dog training world. It's interesting because they say they don't ever use them in other countries, right? Especially like Europe, they're like, we don't use crates with our dogs. So some people think we're too reliant on them in the US. Do you have thoughts on that? Do you think they're being misused and, abused?
There as in everything with humans, we can abuse and misuse anything, but overall, if it's done correctly, it is a wonderful tool for, like we said, house training, a safe space, transporting, uh, correcting, not necessarily correcting, but preventing destructive behaviors.
Yes.
It even helps some dogs with separation anxiety. I had a lady that had a very small Chihuahua, and he just ran around the house barking all the time and was very fearful. And So when I got with her, well, she had this huge house, and this little dog was just free to run all over the place. And I said that this dog just doesn't know. It's way too much for him. He needs his own little safe place. And when we introduced the crate properly, he became a totally different dog.
Mm.
Very happy. You could tell he wasn't barking, shaking. He was comfortable when she left the home. No more separation anxiety issues, and just a delight to see that change.
Yeah, it's really important to approach dogs as individuals because sometimes uh, that helps them. And then I've had setbanks cases where it's the opposite. It's like they try to leave them in the crate, they freak out. If they leave them just in the kitchen, they're fine.
Mm,
So
mhm.
treating them as individuals is really
Right.
important.
Absolutely. And they are. There's no two alike.
Yeah. Then that reminded me, I wanted to touch on this. What can you put in the crate with the dog that's safe? Because some things, especially if you're going to be leaving or you're going to be asleep, you're not going to be supervising the. And we're talking about further down the road when your dog is crate trained, or they're staying in there for longer than just a couple minutes at a time. Are there things that aren't safe to leave in the crate with them?
Yes, I never recommend any of the plush toys. Um, the reason for that is sharp puppy teeth just rip through, and even older dogs, the first thing they want to do is take that squeaky out, right? And they can choke on the stuffing.
Yeah.
So I always say the plush toys are always to be a supervised play toy. But there are things like Nyla bones, they're a rubber. Kongs, Kongs are good. You can put peanut butter inside the Kongs. There is something out now called yak bones. It's actually made from Himalayan yak uh, cheese, milk
Hmm.
that they make
Yeah.
into cheese. And it's perfectly ingestible, good for the dog if they but it is long lasting, and it's good for teething and also just giving the dog something to interact with while they're in their crate and having a good time.
Yeah. And what do you think about like bedding or covering the crate? Do you think there are some rules of thumb as far as those go?
I'll throw a fleece blanket over my dog's crate when we're traveling because a lot of times dogs will become motion sickness.
Mm.
And the reason for that is they're looking out and all of these things are whizzing by, trees are whizzing by and cars are whizzing by, and so it can give them motion sickness. So I'll throw just a light like a baby lice fleece blanket over the crate so they can't see out and get motion sickness. I'll recommend that also to people whose dogs bark when they're traveling and barking at cars that goes by or people. So that helps with that problem. The bedding itself, you do want to be careful because, like I said, puppies do want to chew on things. I don't like to get the really, although it sounds wonderful, those big plush bedding at first. When you've got an older dog that's done teething, then yeah, go for that. That Posturepedic ones and
Yeah.
all of those they have on the market these days. But in the beginning, I don't like to put any of those things inside the crate. You can, if you feel like it, you could put like a fleece blanket in there. Just double check it daily to make sure the puppy hasn't chewed a hole in it or start, getting anything shredded on it. But yeah, if you feel like you want to have some soft stuff down, and I don't blame you. It looks nice to do that. So I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with that.
Okay. And you don't usually cover the crate at home?
I
Just
don't,
traveling? Okay.
unless I've got a dog who is reactive to people coming and going, I might cover the crate if I have the dog in it. But generally, I just leave it open. And my crate's in my office, so I'm in the office, and the dog can see me. I can see both of them. Both of them are in there, and I can see them, and they can see me, and so they seem to be happy with that.
It's important for people to think about if you're going to put your dog, in a crate, that their temperature is correct, right? You don't want them to be too cold or too hot in the summer. So if they're in your house in a room that you use, that's probably not a big issue because you've temperature controlled it for yourself. But we do want to just make sure, especially, we're not leaving dogs in hot cars, not leaving dogs to be
Yeah,
overheat in crates.
right.
You're not putting your crate in your garage and being like, here, he's fine. They can't seek any relief. They don't have any water. They don't have, you know what I mean? So I just want to put that in people's heads too, just to be aware of the temperature.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
And I've had people mention that, well, if the dog's in the crate all night, it can't get a drink of water. Right. And now it can't pee all night too. So,
Yep.
I've never known a dog, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. And I'm also a veterinary assistant. I've never heard of a dog die of thirst overnight in a crate.
No, I agree. I agree. But
Mhm.
I think that's part of this thing that people, there are people who just stick dogs in crates all day. They just cry, they deprive them of food and water. And they, believe it or not, they call it training. And it's
Oh.
horrifying and it's disgusting and it's animal abuse. And but I would say that's probably what I think people are reacting to, and that's why I wanted to do this episode, is to point out that there is a loving, kind way to use crates
Oh,
as well.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And anybody that advocates that type of training where they leave a dog in a crate all day, that's what gives dog trainers a
Uh,
bad name.
yep.
That
Yep.
just uh, and so I thank you very much for putting out this type of uh, podcast for people so they see there is a other side to it. It's not a uh, damaging there's not going to damage their dog in any way. Matter of fact, it's going to make their dog's life more enjoyable.
Yeah. Dogs love routine and predictability.
Mm-hmm.
Routine and predictability. And that's why it's great. Oh, let's also mention if you have kids in a crate, when we say it's their safe space, I always have rules for kids. They're not allowed to reach in and pet the dog when they're in the crate. Um, Basically, the crate is a no kid zone.
I like that idea. I've never really touched on that. Because I really never thought about that. But I think that's a great idea. When a dog's in a crate, that's their own, like you said, their safe space, their den.
Yeah.
And certainly don't want kids banging on a crate or,
Mm-mm.
coming up and teasing the dog while it's in a crate. It definitely would be an area that, again, if you pick where the space where the crate is, uh, out of the way place where it's not high traffic, where there's not a lot of kids going to be coming and going around it, you're going to be more successful in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else? I think we covered everything I could think of. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we touch on before we sign off?
Well, I have written a book, and I do have some training. If I can just throw in that,
Yeah.
if I have a online website for a training. It's called Think Like a Dog University. The website address is TLADU, that's thinklikeadoguniversity.com. And there is a whole course, I think it's like $30, that includes an ebook on crate training. So people could go there if they want more information and check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Great resource. I will link the site and the university in the show notes for everybody. Thank you.
Perfect. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for stopping by the dojo this week. This is your aspiring sensei, Susan Light, signing off. You can find me at doggydojopodcast.com, or I'm Susan Light LA on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. The music was written by Mac Light. You can find him at maclightsongwriter.com. If you like the show, you can support it by subscribing, sharing it with your friends, rating it, and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts. Just a reminder, this podcast is intended for educational purposes only and does not constitute advice or professional services by either the host or any of the guests. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another new episode of the Doggy Dojo.